Welcome to The Explainer, where we really dig into the tough topics and make them simple. Today, we are stepping right into the middle of a courtroom to tackle a total legal nightmare.
Okay, I want you to picture this. Just imagine it. Your entire case, it's all riding on this one star witness. You call them up to the stand, they swear the oath, and then, boom. They say the exact opposite of what you expected. They just completely torpedoed your case. It feels like a total disaster, right? But is it game over? Well, not necessarily.
All right, so to figure this out, we've got to break it down. Here's our game plan. First, what kind of difficult witness are we dealing with? Then, how do you even get their previous statements into court? And finally, we'll get to the real mystery. What are those old statements actually worth?
Okay, so your witness just went completely rogue. Your first gut reaction is probably to jump up and yell, "They're a liar!" right? But you can't do that. Nope. The law has some very specific, almost surgical rules for how you have to handle this mess.
And what this rule really boils down to is this. You can't just launch a personal attack. You can't start dragging up their past or trying to paint them as, a generally bad person. See, the whole system is built on the idea that you are vouching for the people you put on the stand. So when that trust gets broken, you can't just swing a sledgehammer. You've got to use a very precise legal toolkit.
So, let's open up that toolkit. Which tool do you get to use? Well, to figure that out, you first have to label your witness. The law makes a really critical distinction between a witness who is just, not helpful, and one who is actively fighting against you.
And really, this all comes down to intent. Think of it like this. An unfavorable witness, maybe they just have a bad memory, or they got nervous. They're not helping, but they're not malicious. But a hostile witness? Oh, that's different. That person seems to have an agenda. They're actively trying to tank your case. And getting the judge to officially declare them hostile, well, that's the golden key. It unlocks a whole different set of powers.
And this is where it gets really strategic. If your witness is just unfavorable, your hands are kind of tied. Your main option is to just call another witness to tell a different story. But if you get that hostile declaration from the judge, now you get to bring out the big guns. You can actually cross-examine your own witness, you can ask them leading questions, and, this is the big one, you can prove they've said something completely different before.
Okay, so you've done it. The judge has declared your witness hostile, and you're sitting there holding an ace. You have a statement they made to the police, or maybe in an earlier deposition, that says the complete opposite of what they just said on the stand. So how do you play that card? How do you get that powerful piece of evidence in front of the jury? Well, you can't just throw it down. There's a very formal, step-by-step process you have to follow.
Yeah, you can't just ambush them. It's not a gotcha moment from a movie. You have to lay the groundwork first. You have to mention the specific circumstances. You'd say something like, "Now, do you remember talking to Officer Jones at your house on the night of March 10th? You set the scene, and then, only then, can you ask, "And isn't it true that on that occasion you said?" It's all about giving the witness a fair shot to either admit it, deny it, or try to explain why their story changed.
And this whole procedure has a surprisingly messy and tangled backstory. The original rules, they were written way back in the 1850s. And apparently they were so badly written, just so confusing, that they gave lawyers and judges massive headaches for decades before they finally got around to cleaning them up.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. It wasn't just later lawyers looking back and complaining. A top judge from that era, a guy named Chief Justice Cockburn, flat out called the law a great blunder. I mean, how often do you hear a judge say that? It's just a perfect reminder that even the most fundamental legal rules can start out as a total mess and really need to be fixed over time.
All right, all that history, all that procedure, it leads us right here to the absolute core of this entire problem. This is the million-dollar question, the one that has kept lawyers up at night and has decided the fate of countless trials. Once you've jumped through all the hoops and that prior statement is officially in evidence, what can you actually do with it?
I mean, really think about what's at stake. Is the statement's only job to discredit the witness? To basically say to the jury, look, this person told one story then and another story now, so you probably can't trust a word they say. That's option one. Or is it something more? Can you actually tell the jury, you know what? Forget what they just said on the stand. That other statement they made before, That's the actual truth of what happened.
For a long, long time, more than a century, the traditional common law had a very firm answer to this. And the answer was, the old statement can only be used to discredit the witness. That's it. Its only job was to attack the person's credibility, to basically neutralize whatever they just said in court.
So what does neutralize mean? It means the old statement essentially cancels out the new testimony. Poof. But it doesn't replace it. It just creates a vacuum, a total void of evidence from that witness. And this had massive real-world consequences. There was this famous case about a riot. Witnesses told the police, yep, that guy was involved. But then at trial, they changed their story and said, nope, wasn't him. The jury heard about the police statements, believed those, and convicted the guy. But the conviction was thrown out on appeal. Why? Because under the old rule, those police statements weren't evidence of guilt. They were only evidence that the witnesses were unreliable.
But then came the twist. A huge one. In a lot of places, modern evidence laws, they're often called the Uniform Acts, came along and introduced a rule that was absolutely revolutionary. It completely flipped the script on this century-old idea.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say this was a legal earthquake. Under these new laws, that prior statement, it's not just a weapon to attack credibility anymore. It can be admitted as actual evidence of the truth. Let that sink in. The statement they made before the trial can now become the official truth in the courtroom.
And here it is, the key that unlocks this whole new world. Section 60. That's the magic number. It's the specific part of these Uniform Evidence Acts that makes it all happen. It's the rule that explicitly says we are breaking with centuries of tradition. It says that a prior statement can be used both to question credibility and to prove that what the statement says is true.
You can imagine this one little change has enormous strategic consequences, right? Under the old rules, it was a big no-no to call a witness you already knew was going to turn on you just so you could get their old statement in and poison the jury's mind against them. But now, that's not just some sneaky trick anymore. It can be a totally legitimate strategy, because that prior statement isn't just poison, it's potential proof. This completely changes the game for how lawyers can build and present a case.
So this new rule, it's pretty clever. It solves the huge problem of a witness who turns on you. But it leaves us with a brand new and maybe even trickier dilemma. If a statement that wasn't made under oath, maybe it was given under pressure from police, or maybe it was just an honest mistake at the time, if that can be elevated to become the truth in a courtroom, how do we make sure justice is actually being done? Who's the gatekeeper protecting us from a coerced statement or a simple error becoming a conviction? It's a really tough question, and it gets right to the heart of what we mean when we talk about finding truth in the justice system.